There's a fundamental difference between a pole vaulter and a high jumper. A high jumper runs as fast as he can, leaps as high as he can, and if he's good, he'll get to about 7.5 feet. If he wants the world record, that's about 8 feet. His human effort and strength can only take him so far, but the pole vaulter is different. He has to run, but he does not thrust his own 2 legs into the ground, but he carries a pole and sticks that into a hole in the ground and puts all of his trust in that pole to not only hold him, but to raise him and lift him up higher than we could ever do on his own. In fact, he'll go 3 times higher than the high jumper. The world record is over 20 feet for high jumpers and pole vaulters. You can try to leap on your own and do Christian high jumping, but you only get so high. But when you run and then lean of all your weight on Jesus and his word, he takes you higher and higher over things you can never get over on your own strength. That's what we learn in Romans 11. Welcome to the 260 journey. The chapter opens with a story about Elijah that got caught high jumping when he should have been pole vaulting. He was depending on his own strength and insight instead of God. Listen to how Paul tells the story in Romans 11. Elijah speaks at a tough time in his ministry, and this is what he says. Lord, they have killed your prophets. They've torn down your altars, and I alone am left, and they are seeking my life. But what is the divine response to him? The apostle asks. I have kept for myself 7,000 men who have not bowed their knee to Baal. I love how Paul frames Elijah's story of negativity. Elijah says they've killed your prophets, torn down your altars, and I alone am left. Here are the strong words from the apostle Paul back to Elijah. What is the divine response? We need to always ask that over our tough situations. When do you start pole vaulting? Ask over difficulty this question. What's the divine response? Or what does God have to say about this situation? Is there something in God's word I can hold on to get me over this? God says to Elijah, this is not the reality of the situation you've defined. There are not 1, but 7,000 who've not bowed their knee. That means, Elijah, there are people just as committed as you that are no nonsense and no compromise. You're not alone, Elijah. When you look with your natural eyes, that's high jumping. You are the only one. When you ask me, God, for the divine response, that's pole vaulting. I know a lot of people that are sold out to God, is what God was telling Elijah, the high jumper. You are 6,999 off on your response. That's what happens when you try to assess situations with fear, anxiety, and with what you perceive. You'll always be 6,999 off. We have a pole that brings us higher. It's called the divine response. It's God's opinion on and of my situation. I love this story about a woman that tracked her pole vaulting legacy. Charles Spurgeon tells this story. An old Christian woman was accustomed to making marginal notes in her Bible. She would place next to a Bible verse a T and a letter P. She became very ill, but always kept her Bible near her bed. When her pastor visited her, the pastor saw her Bible and was going to read her something from her own Bible and saw all of these letters, T's and P's, over her Bible. He had no idea what this meant, so he asked her, what do these T's and P's mean? With the little strength that she had, she sat up in bed and said, the T and the P means tried and proven. This is for every time I saw God's word triumph and take me through my situation, I would put down a T and a P. What she said was this, I got the divine response from my trial. I got a pole vault. Hopefully Elijah got a T and a P when he realized God knows more people than I do, and I'm not alone. Always ask for the divine response, and you will always go higher. Thanks for joining the 260 journey.